Hi, everybody. This is Carolina Millan, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Hustle. And today I'm here with Gabrielle Chipeur. I hope I said your last name correctly. She's joining us all the way from Edmonton, Canada, which is really nice. I love having people from all over the world. And she's also a mentor for women who are in the web design area. She helps them grow their businesses. And she has also written a book called Secret Weapon. So we're going to be talking about that today. So how are you, Gabrielle?
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Carolyn.
A pleasure. So for the few people listening that may not be yet familiar with you, can you start by telling us a little bit about your background story? What were you doing before, what you do today, and what was the turning point that led you to where you are today?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I started off going to college for graphic and web design, and I never actually had any plans on becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner at all. I just wanted to go and make pretty things and work on cool projects for a company and get that steady paycheck. That was kind of the be all and end all of my goals at that point. So after school, I started doing just that. I started working for different companies as their graphic and web designer, and just kind of slowly made growth and, would get better positions, would move to a different company, get paid more. And I was completely fine with that. When I was 24, I was actually headhunted by Shell Canada, and they needed someone who had the technical and design skills that I had, but they needed to train them as an instructional designer because they were moving from in-class learning to online learning because of all of the millennials coming in, or I guess it was Gen Z back then, coming into their operator position. So they were doing a big push for online learning. So in order to take that contract, I actually had to be a corporation because in order to be a contractor,
of course,
that's what you needed to do. So I begrudgingly went down to the registry and incorporated my company and said, okay, I'm going to do this, and started working for Shell. And that was great for a couple of years. I made a lot of money, created some amazing learning for their employees. And then I got pregnant. So I had my first son, and unfortunately, since I was a contractor and owned a corporation, I didn't have like maternity leave or anything like that. So I left Shell and realized that I could either go find another job, or I could take this business that I had and run with it and stay at home and raise my kids. So that's what I did. And I kind of jumped off the deep end because I had no business management experience. I had never really wanted to be a business owner. So I started doing freelance web and graphic design from home while raising my kids. And for the first 6 years, I struggled a lot. I made every single mistake in the book, and I just stagnated. I never really made a lot of money. I made a lot of mistakes. I piled up a huge amount of debt. And it was just, I got to the point one year where I had to make the decision of whether I was actually going to close the company and find a job or make some big changes. And really that moment kind of hit me. Thankfully, I'm a little bit of a hoarder when it comes to my notebooks.
Okay.
So I was sitting on the floor in my office and I'm going through all my notebooks. And I remember just thinking at the time, like, there has to be a note in here somewhere or something that I'm missing, or maybe someone I didn't follow up with. I could get a new client. And I was just like frantically looking for some answers. And I came across this goal setting exercise that I had done that year where I wrote out in pretty pens and nice colors all of my goals that I wanted to do that year. And I realized, and it was the end of the year, that I had not hit any of those goals.
Oh, it happens.
Like not even close. Like It was like, ouch, right? Like just a gut punch. And so I started looking back through all of these other notebooks, and I opened up all of these goal setting exercises that I'd done in the previous 6 years and realized that I had pretty much set the same goals every single year, and I hadn't hit them year after year after year after year. So obviously I knew what I was doing wasn't working. So I had to make some changes. So I started really applying a lot of the learning that I was coming across in like online courses and business mentoring programs that I was in, and really started tweaking them and applying them and implementing them. And over the course of about a year to 2 years, I tripled my revenue. I started working less, and I actually started achieving those goals that I was writing down rather than just being like, oh no, I didn't hit it again.
Nice.
And that kind of led me to building my business to where it is now, where I'm actually making a lot of money. I'm very profitable. It's sustainable. That goal that I had of spending more time with my kids, I actually do that now. And it's just really, really fulfilling. So I sat down one day and decided to just put all of those lessons that I learned into a book. And that's where the Secret Weapon book comes from.
Excellent. That's a great story, because 6 years is a long time where most people would give up. I mean, most people would have given up and looked for a job. So did that ever, yeah, did that ever cross your mind? Like, maybe I should be an employee again?
Oh, many, many, many times. But it was funny, because every time that I would be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should start looking for a job.
Yeah.
At one point, I did actually start looking for a job and realized that I was incredibly unemployable, because I had more experience than many of the senior managers in like the design firms, the creative directors. And yet I wanted to be paid at that level, but I didn't have, the experience of working in an agency. And so it was frustrating, because I didn't want to be an intro level designer or I was way past that. And then realizing that I would be gone for my kids and paying for childcare, it was just almost not worth it. In Canada, childcare is very expensive.
I've heard.
So I'd literally be just making enough money to put my kids in daycare. And that was just ended up giving up the fight after that. I said, okay, I got to make this work.
There was no plan B at that point.
At that point, yeah, there was no plan B.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your, the ideal, like, because I suppose at the beginning you were just providing graphic design services. When did you make the switch from providing the services to actually mentoring people?
Well, when I started doing research for the book, and the whole idea initially for the book was that I would just kind of write down my business lessons and hope that maybe it helps a few people here and there. And as I was interviewing people, because I wanted other people's opinions and stories and stuff to put in the book, I started doing these little sessions. So it would start with an interview, and I'd ask them questions. And then based on what we talked about in the interview, I would end up mentoring and coaching them and giving them some ideas based on my experiences.
Cool.
And so many of them would go and, apply what we had talked about, and they come back to me and go, oh my gosh, Gabby, this really works. Like, I can't believe, I got that client, or I stopped, offering that service that wasn't profitable. And just this feedback, realized that there was almost another aspect of this book that I hadn't really realized.
That is really great, because you got to see people having the results, like even before you intended to coach them, like almost by accident.
Yeah,
that's
because
really
the
cool.
book kind of started out, I thought that, well, if I write this book, then it'll set me up as an expert in what I do, which was, marketing automation and web design. I thought, okay, if I've got a book, I'll be an expert in that. But then it just turned into such a different animal by the end of it.
Cool. So tell us more about the book. So what was originally your goal with the book? Of course, what's the book about? And what are the biggest takeaways that people can get?
Absolutely. So the book is called Secret Weapon, and it's essentially the lessons that I learned that made me almost indispensable to my clients. So it's how I ran my business, how I got new clients, how I worked with clients, and overall my commitment and investment in my clients' projects and their businesses that really had them calling me their secret weapon. And so they would come back to me again and again and again. And that was a big part of what helped me grow my business in those couple of years, when I really focused on the things that worked and didn't. And I realized that as I was writing it, there's a lot of business advice out there that's kind of tailored for, I don't know, product-based businesses or coaching type businesses. Yeah. But when you're a creative professional, like a designer, a developer, even a VA, what you're doing is you're running your business, but you're also selling your own time and energy. So there's a lot of tweaks that kind of has to be made to this kind of stock business advice so that you can make it work for you. Because I started out in the beginning just, applying whatever I was told and being like, please let this work. And then when it didn't, I would actually take the time and be like, okay, what worked and what didn't? and would tweak it based on the fact that not only was I running the business, but I was selling my own time. And those lessons really boil down to a couple key sections in the book. And the first is that a lot of creatives, they don't really see themselves as business owners.
That's true.
You know, we identify as creatives. So we want to do the projects. We want to, you know, make the pretty things. We want to get our clients these, you know, finished results. And we really do need to kind of put on our business pants and view our business more objectively and more, I want to say, more logically, as opposed to the emotional way we come at it as a creative. And that's things like, you know, managing your finances, creating operating procedures, you know, doing all of these things that just are logical in a business sense. But if you're not coming at it from a business mindset, then it's easy to forget about. And then the second major section of the book is all about attracting clients. So being able to communicate your value and why you're different. And a lot of the times we're kind of up against, you know, people on Fiverr and Upwork and Freelancer, and we're trying to do this quality work for our clients, but we're having a really hard time differentiating ourselves from these really low cost options. So a lot of people that I talk to were just so frustrated because, you know, one of their prospects went to someone on Fiverr or someone on freelancer.com, and they ended up with something that was just really, really poor quality. And they were like, if I had gotten that project, it would have been so much better, right? So being able to like properly communicate to your clients and your prospects how you differ in the value you bring, and then that also helps you charge more.
Right. Yeah. So I guess for a lot of creative professionals, they have that fear of, you know, if I charge more, they're going to go after someone else. So how do you help your clients or even the people that read your book to overcome that limiting belief that, hey, maybe how am I going to charge more? I don't feel like I'm worth that much. Like, how do you help them overcome that?
Mm-hmm. Well, part of that is a mindset block, because a lot of us think of ourselves as products. You know, we're comparing ourselves as apples to apples, from your work to this other person's work that's cheaper. But really, when you're like super invested in your client's work, which most designers and most high quality creatives are, then you're actually comparing apples to oranges. Because what you're going to do and how much more invested in the outcome you are as opposed to this other person is, they're just trying to get as many people through the door so that they can make as much money as possible. But you're going to take the time and you're actually going to dig deeper and you're going to get your clients better results. So you're actually comparing apples to oranges, and your orange is way better than that apple. So when you kind of realize that and you have that confidence in your product and how you're going to do a project better than someone else, then the value there is so much more. And when you believe in it, then it's so much easier to convey that to a prospect coming to you.
Absolutely. Because I think people will only value you and respect you as long as you value yourself and respect yourself. So that's I think that's a very important mindset shift for people to make. So absolutely. So you were telling me as well before we started the interview that you were niching down your audience, right? So what led you to that decision, and what's the benefit that you're seeing from niching down to just women web creatives, web designers?
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of the times I've heard this advice said a lot of times, that your best target audience is who you were like X number of years ago.
Right.
And that's exactly what I was 5 years ago. I was a struggling web designer working from home, trying to, you know, do this work that I knew was amazing, but was just struggling with so many things. And then of course, when we get into like the creative professional fields, you know, we're using these broad terms and nobody really identifies with it, right? You know, if someone says, are you a creative professional? You can say, oh yeah, well, yeah, okay. But you're not going to be typing into Google, how do I grow my creative professional business, right?
No.
So it was more of a move to kind of help people self-identify and be able to properly communicate who I can help the most. And that's not to say that what I'm writing about won't, and what I'm talking about won't help, say, a copywriter or a virtual assistant. It's still the same principles. But I think it's more easier for me to talk specifically to one group and easier for people to self-identify.
Absolutely. And what do you do with, when you encounter a client that maybe has that same belief as you had at the very beginning, where I don't want to be an entrepreneur, or I don't really want to move on from freelancer to business to maybe an agency? Like, do you help them go along that path, or do you show them that, hey, you can still just be just you, like you don't need to grow an agency, you can do it like that, or you also show them the tools to become an agency?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, and that's the thing. I have never wanted to be an agency. And I think when we're talking about like mostly creatives, that's always the next step, right?
Right.
Everybody always touts them, okay, now you become an agency.
Right.
But I would hazard to guess that a good 50 to 60% of creatives don't want to be an agency owner. They just want to continue making money and doing these amazing projects they love, right? So there's kind of a lack in the market of just telling them how to do that so that they can stay small, but they can still be really profitable and sustainable without adding on to that plate, the hiring people, becoming basically a manager rather than a creative. And so that's kind of the niche that I'm looking for, people who want to grow, but not to the point where they're hiring, 6 different designers underneath them. And I think once people realize that that is an option, that kind of turns a light bulb on in their head. They say, what, I can grow without like doing this? And I've had a lot of people just kind of, be taken aback. They're like, oh my gosh, that is an option? It's like, yes, absolutely. It's an option. You don't have to grow an agency. That's not, scaling and growth doesn't always mean more. It can mean better and higher quality and just, that's basically it. Better and higher quality rather than more.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I don't know if you have heard of Paul Jarvis. He wrote a book called Company of One. You know it?
Yes, it's an amazing book. Yeah, I recommend it to a lot of people.
Yeah, me too, because that's like, I really love that, because I myself was also at a point where I thought, oh my God, if I want to grow, it means I have to hire 10 people and have a huge office and all this stuff. And that really was not like a dream of mine. So I think it's great that you see it that way, and also that you are showing your audience that, hey, you can do this and stay small still, but still grow and still add value, which I think is the most important thing. Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is next for you? What are some of your projects that you have for this year? What are the goals that you hope that you will cross out of the list this year?
Well, this year is all about community building for me. Now that I have the book, I've got kind of a platform to talk about. So I'm being on a lot of podcasts, and I'm talking to a lot of different other community members, and I'm really wanting to grow my own community. We've got a Facebook group growing right now called The Well-Paid Web Designer, and we're just really growing people with like-minded around me. And eventually it's going to lead into some paid products and some mentorship programs down the road. That's going to be kind of mid to late 2020. But right now I'm just all about gathering people to this idea so that we can talk about it and flesh it out a little bit more, because I think it's one of those things that it's really enriched from other people's perspectives and other people's viewpoints, because I can sit on a soapbox all day long and just read pages from my book from you, but that's not really going to resonate with everybody. So being able to talk about everybody's unique situations and kind of spark ideas amongst ourselves, that's kind of my end goal for this year, for sure.
Absolutely. So what has been maybe one success story that you're most proud of from one of your clients?
I'd say the biggest success story I had was a girl named Caroline. And which was funny, I actually called you Caroline earlier.
That's okay.
Or Carolina.
Most people, it's okay. I'm used to that. Most people mispronounce it or think it's Caroline,
Yeah.
or it's okay. No
Yeah.
worry.
And it's funny, I got you guys mixed up. But she was basically in the exact same boat I was. She had 2 little boys. She was working from home, and she was working like 12-hour days, and she was like holding a baby in one hand while trying to do her client work and stuff. And really, we identified her 4 most profitable clients, and we got rid of all of the rest because I made her realize that even though she had a fully booked out schedule, and that's kind of the be all end all that people talk about. Oh, you want to be fully booked out.
Right.
But really, when we're fully booked out, we don't have any margin. We don't have any room for ourselves. And that's not really an end goal I think people should be working towards. So we pared back all of these other clients that were just giving her random tasks here and there, and they weren't really conducive to her business growth. And we focused on these 4 clients for her. And then she got into a place where she was getting referrals from just these 4 clients to other really high quality clients. So she was able to raise her rates, and she was able to almost double her revenue in, I think, 3 or 4 months was what it ended up being. And by the end of it, you could just see it in her face. She was so much more relaxed and so much more calm. And I think even despite the revenue numbers, her demeanor after going through this process was just the biggest treat to see, because she was just such a calm and relaxed person. It was just amazing, the transformation.
Wow. No, that's great. I mean, I think a lot of people mistake that, being like having, I have more clients than I can take and all that's the definition of, maybe I'm successful, but sometimes it's a little more than that. And it's also the type of client that you're working with. So if you can focus on the client that you want to work with and stop working with people that you're not happy with, that's a win-win, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And part of the process is really identifying the best fit clients for you, the ones that not only you enjoy them personally, but you can actually get them the best results too. And then from there, asking those for referrals and creating more of those same clients, that's really going to give your business a boost.
Yeah, totally. What is right now, your biggest source of clients? Do you mostly get referrals? Are you also doing paid marketing, a mix of both?
Well, for my services business, it's always been referral. I've built,
Nice.
a 6-figure business based completely on referrals. I've never done any marketing, never done any advertising. It's always been word of mouth. And again, just focusing on those clients that I loved and constantly badgering them for more, but not badgering them, but being consistent in asking for referrals. And in the book, I talk about my referral engine. And a lot of the times we get hung up on asking for referrals because we don't want to bother people. We don't want to feel like we're pushy. But when we get to refer people to other people, it actually gives us a little bit of a boost. So how good do you feel when you're like, oh, I have a friend who's looking for this. I've got the perfect person for them. And that makes you feel good, right? So when we think of it like that, we're actually kind of doing our clients a favor by giving them someone to refer to these, their colleagues and the people that they know.
Exactly. That's a great way to look at it. Like, you're not just asking them for a favor, you're doing them a favor. They will feel great.
Absolutely. And, and when someone is like, I've got the perfect person for you. She's the secret weapon in my business. She does all of my web design, all my graphic design. She's amazing. Let me help you. Then that type of referral automatically, I'd say you get like an 80% success rate on a sales call from a referral like that. It just makes everything so much easier because you're already set up and you're already perfectly positioned as who they need in their business. And it just makes your business growth just go so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Is that something you also cover in the book for?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. I call it creating a referral engine in your business.
Love it. Cool. So where can people find your book? Is it on Amazon? I also heard you had an audio version. Where can people find it?
Yeah, so it's on Kindle and paperback on Amazon. So you can go grab a copy there. And then, I'm also giving away the free audiobook version. So if you go to GabrielleChipeur.com/SW audiobook, you can download that for free.
Excellent. I'm going to make sure that we have the link on the description. Gabrielle, thank you so much for your time today. I'd love to know if you have any final words of inspiration for people that might be out there struggling to make their one-person business thrive, succeed. What words of advice can you give them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, when you're invested in yourself and you're invested in your skills and you're invested in the results that you get for other people, then that investment absolutely pays off. Because honestly, if I could do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, that's what I tell people too. If I could do it, there's no reason you couldn't. It's the truth. Are you on social media at all where people could follow you, connect with you?
I am, yeah. You can find me on Facebook. I think Gabrielle Secret Weapon is the Facebook page. And then on Instagram, I'm Gabrielle_Chipeur.
Excellent. All right. So thank you so much again for your time today, for the value that you brought today to the call. And thanks to everybody who are watching or listening. I hope you go and connect with Gabrielle, check out her book, follow her, connect with her, let her know if you enjoyed the interview as well. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.